I asked you guys for your Saints Row hot takes, and today we're going to look at them and I'm going to tell you whether you've got good opinions or bad opinions. And let's face it, I'm known for having the best Saints Row opinions, so if I say your opinion sucks, it really does suck. So the first one we have here is that Saints Row 1 Stillwater is worse than Steelport. No. Alright, no, just to throw that out there. But I can maybe understand it to a certain degree. I guess perhaps Saints Row 3 Steelport, it's like easy to understand and not as daunting, and maybe variety is not your sort of thing, and maybe that grey, blocky, bland design is... No, I've got nothing. I don't get it. I can see, to a certain degree, jokes aside, why you may think this though. I mean, perhaps it's just a bit more modern. Maybe you just like the modern approach that the city has. Perhaps it's familiar, perhaps it's home, perhaps you've got nostalgic memories there. But for me, I think Stillwater is always supreme, even in its base form. I think it's got a bit more going for it. I think it's a bit more interesting. You know, you had the sort of day and night cycle thing going ham too, with, you know, stores being shut at a certain time. I know a lot of people didn't like that. I personally did. You've got the billboards you can actually ring, and they'll kind of ring you back based on whatever you type in and stuff. I think Stillwater is just far more interesting, to be honest. So yeah, I can't say that this is a good opinion. You have got a bad Saints Row take. I'm sorry, I tried. Saints Row 4 is worse than the reboot, TBH. In what regards? You know, there's not a lot of context here. Overall game? No. I'm sorry, I'm not having it. I love Saints Row 4 to death, and no. If you're talking about, is the reboot a better Saints Row than Saints Row 4? No. But, kind of. I can get what you're saying, you know, it does bring back the 3 gang system, and that's it, really. I suppose there's layered clothing, too, you know, there's a bit going for it, perhaps, but no, I think that, at its base form, even if you are like, what is the best Saints Row? 5 minutes in a simulation where it simulates Stillwater is 10 times more gangster than anything that the reboot has going for it. There are many ways where I do think the reboot is a better game. I think the reboot's map alone is leagues better than Saints Row 4. I think its customization is leagues better than Saints Row 4. And maybe, for all I know, maybe there is an argument that it's a better title. But what I'm basing it on is, when I played both games, which one left me feeling more fulfilled? And whilst I did enjoy the reboot for a good while, and I've spent so many hours on the game at this point, looking back, I think Saints Row 4 really delivered on everything I wanted from a big love letter send-off to Saints Row. You got all your favourite characters in a game, they're all coming back for the callbacks, it's good times, it's dumb fun, and it's a good title. I can see why people would think the reboot is better than 4, and you know what? I think it's a good take. I can understand it. I really can. I don't agree, but I can understand it, because I think in many ways, you're right. Yeah, I guess, you know, when you look at the layered clothing, you look at all the new systems it implemented, stuff like the camera mode, yeah, maybe. Maybe the reboot is a better game, but I personally will always prefer Saints Row 4, and I do think Saints Row 4 is better. Me personally, I think it's better, but I can see the argument for it. So good take. I appreciate you submitting that one. Saints Row 4 is the worst Saints Row game. It tried to pander to old fans and new fans, but with outdated jokes, very different gameplay, and callbacks, it catered to no one. Even Saints Row 2022, despite being dog water in the community's eyes, were at the very least trying to be a Saints Row game. What's interesting to me is, what you describe Saints Row 4 as in this game, I feel like you could apply it to the reboot. Outdated jokes, I mean, the jokes did not land for anyone in the reboot. Not even me, and I like that game. Very different gameplay. I mean, yeah, the reboot perhaps is a slight return to normality, but to just be honest, the janky-ass aiming, the clunky-ass combat system, I would argue Saints Row 4 feels more like a classic Saints Row game, especially Saints Row 3, if you're counting that, than the reboot does. So, for me, I have to disagree. And then trying to pander to old fans and new fans, it's this but more, it's this but amplified. I mean, they tried to pander to them by adding, you know, Sid into the DLC and, you know, a couple things, but, like, you know, completely ignoring Saints Row 1 and 2 from that little room showcase in the Heist and Hazardous DLC. It told me everything I needed to know. They do not care about the old fans, but they care just enough as long as you buy their games. So whilst I do love the reboot in many ways, I don't think it's a better game than Saints Row 4, and I definitely don't think it's a better game than Saints Row 4 based on the things you listed here. Because with the outdated jokes things, I remember the jokes landing fairly well in Saints Row 4, at least at the time. And when you say pander to old fans and new fans, I would argue that Saints Row 4 was a more respectful way to look at the series callbacks-wise. I don't think it would come under pandering. To me, it felt like a real celebration. I mean, I would argue the pandering to old fans and stuff will be stuff like adding Johnny Gat to Agents of Mayhem. That's just blatant pandering. Yep, slap Johnny Gat on it, hey, buy our game. Pandering would be maybe adding Sid or the Zemos Kane and stuff into Saints Row 2022's little workshop area, you know, stuff like that. That's what I see as pandering. Whereas Saints Row 4, it just strikes me as a game that's, you know, throwing callbacks to the many great titles they released over the years and celebrating the franchise's history. So, I disagree. It's a fair take. It's a good take. I'm not going to slam anyone for having this take. I disagree again, though. And I've got to say, I do think I prefer Saints Row 4 still. I prefer Saints Row 3 over the reboot and 4, mainly because 3 does not have shitty dialogue every mission, and also because they destroyed the Earth in Saints Row 4. This one's a weird one for me, okay? I've made it no secret that over the years I've become cold and bitter to Saints Row the 3rd. Maybe I've overplayed it to death, maybe I just realised that over the time, it offers the least to the player. The argument of Saints Row 3 being a better game than Saints Row 4, I don't think comes down to the game's quality. Let's just be real. I do think Saints Row 4 objectively is the worst game in the series. I'll stand by that, because there are many ways that even the reboot excels Saints Row 3 in. And I can't think of many ways Saints Row 3 excels the reboot, other than maybe combat and not having as bad a story as the reboot, but still having a bad story. But for me, I've got to say, I think Saints Row 3 offers the least, it brings the least to the table, and it was the one that fucked up everything. But what you're saying here isn't that. What you're saying here is just that you think that Saints Row 3 doesn't have the shitty dialogue and they don't completely derail the plot. So what that strikes me as is less so that you think Saints Row 3 is the best game, or, you know, a better game than these games, but it's a better Saints Row. And that is fair. So if your take is simply that you prefer Saints Row 3 over the reboot and 4 because Saints Row 3 is a better Saints Row game, valid, good take, I agree. I would agree with that take. I don't prefer Saints Row 3 over 4 and the reboot. But what I would say is, like, if we were to list, you know, for a Saints Row experience, what are my games in order? Yeah, I'd put 3 obviously above 4 and the reboot. So I do agree on that, but I don't think that 3 is a better game if that's what you're saying. I have to say I think 4 and the reboot are better titles. Can I just say that having Saints Row 3 be a soft reboot was one of the dumbest decisions made. Saints Row 1 and 2 set the tone for what Saints should be, and Saints Row 3 feels like you're doing side quests than actual stuff for the Saints themselves, and also not continuing the next plot from Saints Row 2. It's my take that Saints Row 3 was the worst title in the series for many reasons, and this is the main one. People want to get on the reboot's ass for, you know, oh my god, it wasn't a return to form, oh, they fucked it up, oh, they had one chance. But in my opinion, they would never have been in this position if they just stuck with the themes of Saints Row. If THQ didn't fuck up Saints Row 3 so much. I mean, Saints Row 3 was a stylistic reboot. They completely abandoned all the plot lines. They completely overhauled all the casts. They completely redid the combat. They completely redid the engine. They removed the layered clothing. They removed half the diversions. You can no longer call up stores and have random call voice lines. I mean, they butchered what Saints Row was 100 times more than the reboot did versus what Saints Row was at the end of its life. What I'm trying to say there is, like, the Saints Row 2 to 3 gap, in my opinion, is far worse than the Saints Row 4 to Saints Row 2022 gap. That's my hot take for the video. But as for this, yeah, I completely agree. Saints Row 3 was the one that really fucked up things in the first place, and if it was never to happen that way, we'd be in a much better position. 3 was not bad, and 2 is overrated. Kinda still the best though, lol, and the reboot is fun. I agree with everything but 2 being overrated. 3 is not bad. 3 is a game that gets probably a bit more shit from me than I should. Okay, you've got to understand there's like years of playing it and years of frustration with the game, and you know, it's not an interesting game to make content on, and you know, it's the game that arguably derailed it. There's a lot of like negative connotations with Saints Row 3, but as a game, no, it's not that bad. I enjoy it for the most part. It's a fine title. As for 2 being overrated, nah, to be honest, just no. I think there is a very solid reason as for why fans are crying out, going, man, bring back Saints Row 2. We want Saints Row 2. It's not overrated if literally everyone is going, this is better. And yeah, I agree with them. Saints Row 2 is the GOAT. As for the reboot not being bad and kind of still being fun, I agree. Yeah, I love the reboot. I really do. I don't have all the negative connotations that a lot of people do have with it. You know, it brought me a lot of joy, both in the industry and community aspects and just personal enjoyment from playing the game. So yeah, I like the reboot. I think it's a cool game. Good take. The reboot is woke and is not Sigma like Saints Row 2 and such. We won't be reading any more Goombas, because that's just unacceptable. But good take. Saints Row could be revived if they did a collab with Fortnite and made Skibbity Gat and Goomba. Stop fucking. The Saints Row reboot's main problem was the gameplay, not the story. The story did suck though. No, it's both. To be honest, I don't think the gameplay of the reboot's fine, but I think it's bad as the combat. I'll never get over how the combat feels, how it feels to aim and shoot. It's just so clunky. The aim acceleration needs to go. If they could have fixed that, man, I'd have really enjoyed the reboot for the most part. The combat's bad, and the story is bad, and they're just as bad as each other, man. They both add to the product. The way I see it is, if the gameplay was better, would the game be fixed? No, it really wouldn't. It would be bad regardless. So, to a certain degree, I have to disagree, because I feel like, you know, if the gameplay was perfect and was on par with, like, you know, a solid Saints Row experience, the story was just so bad people that hated it anyway. Saints Row 3 was a far better game than 4, only due to the fact that 4, the Earth is destroyed. That's the type of thing you can't come back for. In my opinion, I think 3 separated the fans, 4 ruined the series, Gat of the Hell doesn't need to be discussed, and the reboot killed it for good. I have to disagree. I think that... I get what people are saying about 4 going off the deep end by destroying the Earth. But, like, it got to a point that by the end of Saints Row 4, I didn't care. The big shift between Saints Row 1 and 2 to Saints Row 3, it's like all the plot lines that they didn't answer. Because of the massive character shifts, it doesn't matter. Look at how the boss is in Saints Row 3. He let Miller live. He would have let Killbane escape to save Shaundy. Or, like, do you think he gives a fuck about Dex? I swear Flippy said something similar a while back. But, like, literally, do you think that the Saints Row 3 boss gives a shit about Dex? No. He's too different a person. It's set years in the future. So yeah, the Earth being destroyed, you know, obviously you can't come back from that. But that's because Saints Row 4 was supposed to be the final Saints Row game. But when we look at, like, which one really destroyed the series, it's 3 or the reboot, depending on where you land on it. I think claiming 4 was the one that destroyed the series. I disagree, because if it, like, 4 was the end of the series, and that's what people don't realize. 4 did not destroy any future, it was the finale, it was the ending. And yes, we had it rebooted many years down the line, but 4 was it. 4 was the lot. 4 was the final Saints game. So, no, I don't think blaming 4 for, like, being, like, the one that destroyed the franchise isn't fair, because 4 did not destroy it, it was the end. So destroying the Earth, like, it kind of doesn't matter, because it's the end. But I think it's a good opinion. I can get behind it. You know, I disagree, but I can get behind that one. I can understand what you're saying. I'll give you a good take, even though it's not a take I have. Shaundy seems like the canonical romance option for the male boss in Saints Row. Interesting that you say that. I never actually got that impression. I always thought that it was the boss and Kenzie, man. They had something going on, I'm telling you, dude. Like, Shaundy and Pierce, I could see getting together. And then the boss and Kenzie getting together. And I know people are going to go, but AJ, Kenzie is Oleg's. Who gives a fuck about Oleg, okay? Let's just be real. Oleg died. Who cares? Even when he was alive, I didn't care. But yeah, like, I could always see Kenzie and the boss getting together, so that's my answer for that one. I'm sorry if that's boring to you guys, but no, I disagree. I think Kenzie, was, in my opinion, the one that the boss should have been. And the final one is, Saints Row 1 is better than Saints Row 3. Always nice to end on a correct take, a good take. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this Saints Hot Takes video. I'm sorry it took so long to get to you, man. Work has been killing me. And for all Saints Row fans that are wondering about my Saints Row 2 playthrough, I promise it's not abandoned. But I'm busy, bro, okay? I hate it. I'm a busy boy these days, and I just haven't had time to put, you know, Saints Row 2 on and actually play for the time I need. So, regardless, I've got it on the way. When? I don't know. Like a month, probably. But still, thanks for tuning into this video. I appreciate you all. Take care. And, you know, enjoy your year, man. Because, you know, we're going into the new year now. Exciting times ahead of us. Take care, people.